So today we're going to start reviewing linear functions. You need to be able to graph lines without a calculator and write equations of lines. So we'll start with graphing. Hopefully you know by now that generally an equation of a line is in y equals mx plus b form. M is your slope and b is your y-intercept. So it's really easy to graph when you're given equations in that form. Let's do a couple of examples. So I have y equals 4/5 x plus 1. First thing you do is graph your y-intercept, 1, count your slope from there. And slope is rise over run, so I go up 4 over 5 to the right, or down 4 to the left 5. I always count out my slopes from my y-intercept. Quick and easy, use a straight edge, and there you go. You don't have to graph the equations on the lines if there's only one line on a set of axes. Just a reminder, the formula for slope, which you'll need once in a while, is change in y's over change in x's, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You're going to want to have like a bag of formula tricks or a page of formulas, and that's a good one to still know. So for another example, let's graph y equals negative 2x plus 3. Okay, so your y-intercept is 3. The first thing I do is go up to the 3 and graph it on my y-axis. And then I count out my negative 2 slope, which is 2 over 1, down to right 1, or up to left 1. Making sure that your line is moving in the negative sloped direction. Again, you should all be graphing that quickly without an Inspire or any form of a calculator. Now sometimes your equations are not in y equals mx plus b form. So we might have something like 3x plus 2y equals 6. You have a couple choices. You could get it in y equals mx plus b form, so solve for y. So for this example, you would subtract 3x from both sides, and then divide every piece by 2. It's not necessary to do that though. What I suggest when you're not in y equals mx plus b form and your numbers are reasonable is think about the intercepts. The x-intercept is when y equals 0, and the y-intercept is when x equals 0. So it's a real simple substitution of zeros. And if you know any of the Schoolhouse Rock songs, I think 0 is my hero. So I like to use zeros to help me quickly graph equations that are not in y equals mx plus b form. So we plot the intercepts, we substitute y equals 0 for the x-intercept, and x equals 0 for the y-intercept. 2 points determine a line, so that's enough to figure it out. What you'll notice is when I'm done with this, you get the same line regardless of how you did it. So it's really a personal choice, whatever is going to be most efficient for you and more accurate. Graph this using the intercepts and then check it with my y equals mx plus b form. My x-intercept is 2, my y-intercept is 3, so when I connect that I see again that the y-intercept is 3 from y equals mx plus b, and my slope is negative 3 over 2, rise over 1. And that's it. We'll talk about horizontal and vertical lines in class. Now you also need to be able to write equations of lines. When you look at a graph, you should be able to say, oh yeah, that's a line, I can throw it in y equals mx plus b form, just by looking at the y-intercept and counting out the slope. Or if you're given in words the y-intercept and the slope, you should be able to plug them into y equals mx plus b really fast and be done with that.